Hey everybody, this is Ryan with that really awful case of late to the party syndrome. So I finally played Life is Strange 2. Fresh off the heels of Life is Strange, Vampire, The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit, we have Life is Strange 2. New characters and new quests, and just as strange as the original title, albeit for different reasons. You might be wondering why I would watch a video for Life is Strange 2. I already have my opinion on it, damn it. That's okay. I don't have an explanation for you beyond explaining that I only just now got a chance to play it. And for those of you who may want to check out a more easy to play title or a more point and click adventure game, here you go. There might be some light spoilers, but only what's necessary for you to understand what I am talking about if the need arises. With any of my videos, I always say, if you are at all interested in the game and plan on getting it, or have it and are going to play it regardless of what I say, don't watch this video. Your level of enjoyment of the game will be substantially better if you play the game with as little knowledge of it or what it is as possible. You can always come back later and watch it when you're done. Life is Strange 2. Okay, so the original Life is Strange I enjoyed quite a bit. It wasn't a smash hit or an epic triumph of story and narrative design, but it was good. I told friends when I played it, I like how densely layered the dialogue was. You felt like you were weaving through conversation and really working to achieve a certain outcome or result, much as you would in real life if you were trying to persuade a friend of yours to do something. Now we have this follow-up, which is less a follow-up and more of a brand new story, new characters, and it's much more political than the games preceding it. Let's start with the game's graphics and visuals. Graphics are not everything, so I'm not that concerned with the game's visual fidelity. More of it has a clear art direction and everything feels like it makes sense together. It definitely does capture that Life is Strange feel. From its wide-angle landscape montages to its scribbled outlines over points of interest, and even the I barely washed this and threw it on type aesthetic to the clothing of our protagonist, where it feels like a rich world that is lived in. Specifically in later episodes, one has you in a camp in the forest while the other has you hiding out in Arizona, and these areas feel messy and lived in and kind of gross, but homely. It complements the plot that sees our protagonist constantly on the run from the police, never staying anywhere for too long. In that, it has more visual variety in its locations than the original did and almost feels like it is expanding the world so it feels larger. Textures are rather unappealing overall. I mean, it has the same quality as the first Life is Strange, and that is to say, it's not the best you'll see today, and in some ways it can make the game feel a bit dated, and that and its stiff facial animations, and generally stiff and slow animations to boot. Conversation can sometimes feel a little wooden. It's not super important overall because it's not game-breaking, but it's worth noting. Even so, conversation feels natural as far as talking to various characters. It feels cinematic in a way, even if it doesn't always look the best. The act of making a major decision is giving enough visual flair to make you think that maybe life would be better if you had that visual pop up every time you face a tough choice. Imagine how badass it would be. Bacon, eggs, or cereal. It's a bit over the top and unnecessary, but it gives you a sense that your choice is important and will have lasting implications, even if they're kind of lame. More on that later. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about now how this game has such an incredible soundtrack. Life is Strange 2 doesn't lack for end of episode montages, and it honestly wouldn't work for me if it didn't have an incredible soundtrack backing it up. Upbeat tracks, poppy, catchy music. It's juxtaposed with its lyrics, highlights significant parts of our character's journey. Generally, music for me should be something that is supplemental and only enhances your experience more than compensates for it lacking any heart. There's definitely parts where the story kind of didn't have me on board, but I thought the music was well suited and fast-paced enough, or that was paced out enough rather, that it never felt out of place and it did enhance my experience. Voice acting is generally pretty good. Nobody stood out to me beyond our two main characters, but nobody else felt too out of place or underwhelming where it hurt my experience. Though there are definitely moments of anguish and faux confidence from Sean as he is now forced into the role of a father figure for his brother Daniel and is trying to navigate that path between being a brother and a surrogate father. You hear it in his voice. He's unsure of himself. Even when scolding Daniel for not being careful enough, Daniel has his childhood effectively stolen from him, so he doesn't understand Sean, and their dynamic works because they're both believable as brothers, and that is carried through their performances.
I wish he could. He reminds me of Noah. I just miss having friends, Sean.
I know, man, but you can't lie to friends about something like this. He could get in trouble thinking he can make shit fly, or he could get hurt.
So you want me to tell him the truth?
Well, I don't want you to lie anymore. You don't have to tell him everything, but don't let him think he has magic powers, okay? You swear?
Okay. I swear.
Deal. I'm counting on you, Anano.
Can I go see Chris now?
Again, I'm not going to get too specific on the story here because I honestly don't want to ruin it or even over-explain because I think you guys are dumb. Of course you're not. I'm the dumb one. But there might be some small things I mentioned just to explain thoroughly what I think. Suffice to say the story is okay, it has its moments, but in some ways it felt like Don't Nod decided it was more important to make political statements than to make me feel compelled by the characters and the narrative. It's not about agreeing or disagreeing with the political messaging, because I take the developers' well-intentioned with the content. It's more that it doesn't always feel organic to the plot. For example, our inciting incident is a cop shooting Sean and Daniel's father. Though their father is unharmed, the obvious implication being they're minorities and the cops saw them as dangerous despite them all being unarmed, causing Daniel to use his power, unbeknownst to cause a blast that ends up killing the cop. This is a fine opening, and I didn't mind it at all. It was a strong way to open up the story about our two main characters on the run. Where it gets a bit heavy-handed is later, there's a moment where a guy recognizes Sean and handcuffs him, saying, "You're the reason we have to build that wall," which, sure, I guess it's plausible that Sean could run into someone like that, but it felt forced, like, look at us, we're woke, whatever that means. And this happens throughout the story. Usually I felt when the politics were kept in the backdrop or in the background of the conversation of the story and the characters were the focus, it felt more organic and interesting. And again, it's not an issue with the politics of it. I can handle it because I'm a big boy. It's more like they made the first episode and was pretty politically charged, then kind of backed off in subsequent episodes, only to kind of bring it back towards the end. So in that way, it felt heavy-handed and it was also just inconsistent. That being said, I never fully bought into the dynamic that was Sean and Daniel's relationship as brothers. Yes, they are believable, as I said before, but generally I didn't feel as strong of a connection with them as I did, say, Chloe and Max. To be honest, Sean is kind of a dick to Daniel most of the game, and Daniel is kind of a brat. If it weren't for the saving grace of you being able to influence Daniel's morality, it probably would be lost on me entirely. Now, yes, they are kids, it's just, it didn't connect with me the same way that, again, the characters in the first game did.
Whoa, hold on.
Let go! Stop it!
Dude, I told you to stay out of my room.
Ow! That hurt!
Yeah, I'm not fucking around anymore. Got it? Do you hear me, Daniel? You shall not enter your brother's room.
I realize that sounds contradictory. I said they were believable as brothers, but also I didn't fully buy in. What gives, Ryan? You stupid Chloe and Max stand? I'm just saying I never fully engaged with their story. I felt the story was very unfocused overall, the two of them never staying in one place for too long, so it felt more like I was getting new characters to talk to or interact with all the time, while we kind of forgot to have more moments of Sean and Daniel and show their bond. There is something about the story of a lone wolf traveling with a cub that is compelling, but you have to do the work to get us to engage with it, and I felt Life is Strange 2 only got us about halfway. Before we finish, I want to mention the choices you make throughout the game. They are best summed up as you have your large implication style choices where it's clear it will have an effect on the narrative or consequences for our characters. Then there's the more subtle conversational ones that, for me, spoke to Don't Nod's strength with making dialogue feel dense and layered and thoughtful and purposeful. Some of the choices don't really mean much, or maybe it just felt that way because I played way too many of these point-and-click episodic style adventure games. Like, there's a choice where a guy is being a dick, the two people in the scene, and the guy is being a dick to leave and say, well, screw you, dumbass, ha ha ha. They didn't care. Daniel remarks, should we teach him a lesson? Like, dude, hell the fuck no. Yes, it influences Daniel's morality. Does he use his telekinetic powers responsibly and be a good person or not? I get it. But at some point it felt they were just throwing in choices just to have a choice exist. One cool thing is that through Sean you end up influencing your brother's morality and can get different outcomes in the ending depending on what you did. And that's pretty cool. Some people may lament, well, I can't believe because of X I got this outcome. If only I knew. It's about choice and consequences. If nothing else, these games should have various end states based on your choices, and Life is Strange 2 does. I did look at some of the other endings and they didn't sound too good compared to my Redemption High Morality ending, but it's cool to have a title that allows your choices, or even the mistaken ones, affect the outcome. Life is Strange 2 also has collectibles, and while I don't have any animosity towards the existence of them in games, I don't think they added much to my enjoyment here. It didn't hurt, but again, it didn't feel significant to my experience. Sean has the ability to at times draw his surroundings, people, places, and things, and he can add details in. He draws very well. The idea is fine and adds some depth to Sean and makes him feel like a real boy. But it was more of a throwaway mechanic or a throwaway gameplay mechanic in my opinion, and I'm not against per se a character having a hobby or an interest in something that doesn't necessarily reflect itself in the game. It's more the idea that it didn't seem to tell me anything about Sean or why he chose to draw or chooses to draw at different times. I don't need it spelled out for me, of course, but it could have been clearer. Instead, it was just a vague game mechanic that is over before you can entirely understand it. But that's the age-old dilemma developers face. Do you have to make a gameplay mechanic make sense from a character and story perspective, or can it just exist irrespective of the game's story or plot development? Now, I recognize that's probably a bit too deep for an episodic story-driven game with light supernatural elements, so I digress. Suffice to say, I got the Platinum Trophy. It had me pursuing that content, so I guess it wasn't a total waste of time. I was able to talk to you about it. And, now I'm done. Thanks. So there you have it, my late as hell review of Life is Strange 2, a game that I enjoyed despite it having all the issues I mentioned above. I would definitely recommend Life is Strange 1 over this one though. It just didn't do it for me completely. If you like episodic story-driven games, this is not the best of the genre, and isn't even the best that Don't Nod has done. But it's serviceable, I suppose. If you can get this game on sale, give it a shot, but don't have illusion that this will knock your socks off. You will definitely keep your socks on. Also, quickly I want to mention, technically if you play the free demo that precedes Life is Strange 2, The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit, your experience might be enhanced. I didn't play it, but maybe you want to. Only thing that is an issue is that it's not currently playable on PS5, which seems a little bit of an oversight for a console that has otherwise great backwards compatibility. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. It may hurt my feelings, but it'll make you feel good. If you're feeling dangerous, subscribe for more videos like this, or maybe subscribe if you didn't and pressure me to make more content that you do like, I don't know, maybe Tifa simp content, or Jesse simp content? Yeah. Thanks for watching. I love you. Maybe. It's complicated.